Right before we clicked record on this segment, I glanced down and saw that the lower third chyron of the Fox News broadcast that provides the clip I'm about to play for you said that Tiger Woods joins Trump at Black History event. And in my head, I thought, Tiger Woods, think about the foresight of his parents to name him Tiger. I mean, that's a name, right? And then I thought, is that his real name? And so then I Googled it. Did you know that Tiger Woods' real name is Eldrick? I mean, my whole world's been turned upside down. Eldrick Woods. The more you know. MAGA will do anything for Trump. They will do almost anything for Trump, I should say. They'll shoot themselves literally in the foot, metaphorically in the foot, and they will storm the Capitol for him. They'll go to jail for him. They'll wear hats for him. They'll lose friends and family for him. But there is one thing they will not do for Donald Trump, and that is even for a moment accept him being even a little okay with vaccines. And we saw that play out as I'm preemptively playing this clip. We saw that play out during an event, a Black History event, Trump and a Black History event. Yikes. And he mentioned that the CEO of Pfizer was there. And look at the reaction from MAGA. And then I'll remind you of the few other times Trump has been booed. And then we'll talk about someone else who was recently booed very fascinatingly. If you appreciate the show, please do click the subscribe button. And if you want to go a step further, you can become a member by clicking the join button below.
We also have the head of Pfizer here. So I want to thank him. One of the great people, one of the great businessmen. Thank you, Albert. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate our...
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck. Eldrick. Tiger Woods. Eldrick. What is life? If Eldrick can become Tiger Woods, you can do anything. Okay, that's the takeaway, I think, from that. So yeah, they were unhappy with that, and accounts like this one, right-wing accounts, were really hyped. Even MAGA doesn't trump Maha. Don't know what that means. Trump and Pfizer's CEO got brutally booed by his own diehard supporters because America has had enough of Big Pharma's lies. Don't ever forget what Pharma did to Americans and our freedoms. The tide is turning. But even if we accept their premise that Big Pharma, created bad stuff, it wasn't them who, quote unquote, took away the freedoms by their understanding. It was the government. And you know who was at the head of the federal government at the time? Trump. And then a guy named Keith said, CEO Pfizer just got booed by the audience after Trump introduced him. The people are awake and not afraid to show it. The new woke. And this is not the first time that this has happened. You also have this at a rally some time ago.
3 days, less than 9 months. And it's great. And you know what? I believe totally in your freedoms. I do. You got to do what you have to do. But I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know. Okay? I'll call up Alabama. I'll say, hey, you know what?
Okay. So then desperately trying to get away from that. And the way he reacts every time they boo him is comical.
Both the president and I are vaxxed. And did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't. No. That's all right. There's a very tiny group over there.
That's no one booed. No, don't. He can see in his head the headline being written, Trump gets booed. No, it's fine. Do whatever. You got your freedoms. So that's that. Someone else who got booed because of Trump was Representative Rich McCormick. Rich McCormick is a Republican congressman, and I'm going to remind you in a second of one of his greatest hits, which was him arguing, hey, take away the free meals from the hungry kids because maybe that'll make them go get a job. You know, I had a job before child labor laws were as strict as they are now. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. We're going to watch. But first, he was at a town hall, and one of his constituents came up and said, you know, Trump said something to the effect of long live the king recently, and he seems to be governing like he thinks he's the king. What's up with that, Rich?
Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, Congressman, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going to give you my best foghorn leghorn response to that. But what I was, you can go ahead and sit down.
I literally have no earthly idea what that means. What? I'm sure it's me who doesn't know that phrase, but what?
I'm not going to give you my best foghorn leghorn response to that. But what I was,
I'm not going to give you my best Bayou bash. I don't know.
You can go ahead and sit down. Thank you. When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected. The funny thing is, you're sitting here and a lot of you would probably say those January 6s who are yelling just as loud as you, who are upset just like you.
Why is the clip in there? No. Oh, it's Rich. Rich. I'm so sorry. I don't want to say this. No, I'm not going to say it. Just something that rhymes with Rich. Okay. That's brutal. Hey, I believe that Trump may act tyrannically. How are you going to resist that? Well, you know, Biden. What about Biden? I had the same conversation with Biden when he took office. Or about Biden when he took office. Okay, well, that doesn't have anything to do with this. And he wasn't at all overstepping like Trump is. And then, what on earth? As little as I understood about that phrase he used, you know, you put a key in the door, you turn the door. I'm not going to give you my best card to the door. As little as I understood about that, I understand what his point was about the January 6ers even less. Which is, I guess, that by shouting at him or by booing him, you know, a lot of you in the crowd would have called January 6ers insurrectionists because they shouted, but now you're shouting. So, you're the real insurrectionist. Is that what he was saying? No, our problem wasn't that January 6ers made noise. It was sort of the whole beating police officers to try to block the peaceful transfer of power thing. That maybe more was our problem. And because you couldn't really see Rich's face in that clip, let's take a little bit of a detour and do a flashback to when federal funds were frozen, as much of them still are, and the meals for students who are in need of such meals were being threatened in schools. Rich went on TV to defend it, and well, that look on his face says it all.
Look, I mean, that is a valid goal, right, to save money and be more efficient, right? But the bottom line is, right now with this freeze, vulnerable populations could be directly impacted. And so my question to you, just to follow up with you, would you support getting rid of school lunch for vulnerable kids and breakfast and Head Start, for example, and getting rid of childhood cancer research? Do you support that? And what do you say to your constituents? I want to follow up on that question too, because I didn't hear an answer from you.
Sure. So I'm an ER doc, and I know that philanthropy is where you get most of your money for childhood cancer research, for example. And it's not just you look at what the president just proposed, a $500 billion spending bill on AI to produce cancer early detection in the first stage on most body parts. That's his spending bill where he wants to increase cancer research. So it's just about what part of the money it comes out of. When you talk about school lunches, hey, I worked my way through high school. I don't know about you, but I worked since I was, before I was even 13 years old. I was picking berries in the field before we had child labor laws that precluded that. I was a paper boy. And when I was in high school, I worked my entire way through. You're telling me that kids who stay at home instead of going to work at Burger King, McDonald's during the summer, should stay at home and get their free lunch instead of going to work? I think we need to have a top-down review.
You're painting a lot of these kids with a broad brush. I would say that's not necessarily a fair assessment.
Oh gosh, can you leave that out? How do I describe the look that he's making on his face for the podcast listeners? Here, ready? Yeah, Paula, when when it's sort of the your face doesn't move, but it's the type of guy who laughs, but while he's laughing, nothing in his face moves. That was funny. And also, Paula, when I killed my second wife, I told the kids, I said, listen, you're going to have to go out and work. You're going to have to provide for the family. Oh, Rich, this is devastating. So the argument is, hey, maybe kids can pick berries like I did. And and that's, oh my gosh, it's terrible. I never get over this clip. And that is the solution to childhood hunger. Well, Rich, that's an interesting proposal.
Telling me that kids who stay at home instead of going to work at Burger King, McDonald's during the summer should stay at home.
By the way, I know this is obvious, but he did not kill his second wife. I don't know if he's had multiple. To paint you a mental picture of the look he was making.
Home and get their free lunch instead of going to work. I think we need to have a top-down review.
You're painting a lot of these kids with a broad brush. I would say that's not necessarily a fair assessment of all of the kids. So you would
exactly. Yeah.
Say all the kids in your district who use the free lunch, for example, or breakfast, they're all just sitting at home and not working. Okay, I just want to clarify because that seems like what you were trying to insinuate.
This gives us a chance. This gives us a chance, though, to see where is the money really being spent. Who can actually go and actually produce their own income? Who can actually go out there and do something that makes them have value and work skills for the future? I mean, how many people got their start in fast food restaurants when they were kids versus just...
Listen, do you know how many Bill Gateses we could have produced if we would just make them go work at Burger King? Yeah. Hey, guess what, Rich? First of all, we're talking about people as young as when do you start elementary school? 5. That's what you want a 5-year-old to go start. At some point you gotta get you some hair in your chest, son. All right, at age 5, and a lot of kids in high school, for example, are working jobs, and they need the support as well. Let me paint you a hypothetical that's a real example. Someone is helping to provide for their family. That's where the money's going. And it would be helpful to also have food at school. But then his argument is, but by cutting off all the funds, I know he wishes he hadn't said it this way, but he did. So this is how it came out. He's saying if we restrict the funds, this gives us a chance to figure out who was lying about needing the food. Because the people who get the funds cut off but don't go hungry, exposed.
Giving a blanket rule that gives all kids lunches in high school who are capable of going out and actually getting a job and doing something that makes them have value, thinking about their future instead of thinking about how they're going to sponge out the government when they don't need to. We don't give people value. We don't give them the ability to dig themselves out when we penalize them.
Someone's digging, and it ain't the kids. You're digging into a hole is what I'm saying, Rich. Okay? Gosh, make me explain it.
For actually working and actually keep them on welfare. That's what's been the inner city problem for a very long time. We need to have a top-down review so we can get people out of poverty. Because you know what? America's very good at creating jobs and giving people worth. And we've been very traditionally good at that, but we're losing our way. And that's when we give people incentives to stay at home and not work. That doesn't work for America.
Listen, Billy, you're 5. It's time that you drive your remote control tractor to McAdee's and apply for a job. Because right now you don't have much value. You understand? You're valueless unless you start working a job. You get it, Billy? I do not. I'm happy I was not raised by him. That would be a tough conversation. We're talking about elementary schoolers, Rich. Picking berries. My goodness. Is that even true? Okay, it's probably true, but there's a part of me that believes he pulled that right out of where the sun don't shine. Share your thoughts in the comments. Support the show. Get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.